Um, Great, thanks, Rob. And first off, thank you everyone for being here. It's an exciting time to kick off this season. Is always a fun time of year in Columbus and around the league. So appreciate all that you do, especially in the off season to build up toward the year, but also to cover us throughout the year, many nights and weekends. And wanted to start off saying we appreciate it. Obviously, last year was a historic year in so many ways, and it's a quick turnaround, 11 and a half weeks. In some ways it's great because you flip the switch and you turn to a new year. In other ways, it'd be great if we could celebrate for 8 months like they do in other leagues, or 4 months, but that's just not the way it is in global football, soccer. And so we're ready to turn the page. We had a nice ring ceremony dinner the other night where it was sort of dual purpose. It was celebrating the moment together with our families, but also thinking about kicking off the year and turning a page. And it is important to celebrate those moments because you don't know how often they're going to come, and people sacrifice a lot at this club to do what we did last year, and our fans were along with the journey with us, and to have these moments, it's important to at least reflect for one night and then move on. So that was special, and now it's the focus clearly completely turns to this season and leaving off where we kind of continue where we left off. So started this, obviously we started the season strong with a win. Now we're going to go on the road and see what we can do in Minnesota this weekend, as well as now we know our opponent is Houston. And I think the biggest thing and the most important thing for us is making sure we continue to have that home field advantage. We've had 18 straight sellouts at Lower.com Field, which is just remarkable given where this club was, 5-6 years ago. We always had good support, but right now you can really feel it in the city. Wherever you go, people are following this team and falling in love with the players and really following Coach and what he's done. And it's really exciting because, being from here, there was one point growing up where, soccer was sort of the alternative sport. And seeing what we have now in this league and what's happening downtown at Lower.com Field, and obviously with stars in our league like Cucho Hernandez and Messi, it's so different. It's so different, and just so grateful to be a part of it and to be a part of a great club like the Columbus Crew, and just fortunate to be working under the leadership of our ownership group with the Haslam and Edwards and Johnson families. So obviously we want to give back to our fans for the atmosphere that they're creating in our stadium. Like I said, we've had a number of sellouts, but we also are sold out of our season ticket memberships. So at this point, it's waiting lists, and I think that's, again, a far cry from where we were a few years ago. But the mission remains the same, and that's that we want to consistently contend for championships. So we're not just happy with the trophies that are in the back of the room here. We want to get more. And most importantly, though, we want to do it in our own way and in our own style. And I think that's really important to our identity, to stay true to our values. And clearly Wilfried and the coaches have laid that out for the players. And I think it's evident for anyone who watches our matches that we want to be entertaining. And I think we scored 82 goals last year across sort of MLS regular season and the playoffs. It was the most of any MLS Cup winning team. And that's just one data point to kind of what the shift we made a couple years ago, a little over a year ago, I guess, because that's what this game should be about. It should be about having fun and bringing fans together. And you can't always score goals, right? Our game is what is it, about 2.5 or a little under 2.5 goals a game, but we're gonna try because the fans deserve to see goals. They deserve to see moments of brilliance from players, and the way the team can come together and pass the ball around the field to attract an opponent and then, slip the ball in behind like Malte did in MLS Cup. It's just that's those are the emotions that Coach talks about that are so special. So we're excited about what we're trying to do in terms of on the pitch, but we do have a challenge ahead of us this year. And the challenge, there's multiple challenges, but the first one is just the number of competitions that we are competing in. In the global soccer, it's not uncommon to compete in multiple competitions. I think it's still, the competition soup is sort of confusing for some fans who are still learning, but we play an MLS regular season just to outline it, and then there's the playoffs at the end of the year. But there's CONCACAF Champions Cup, which starts next week for us, which is the winners of each domestic competition of each country in North America, Central America, and the Caribbean get the opportunity to play in this competition. And the new format of the Club World Cup is that the winners of the CONCACAF Champions Cup will be able to compete in the Club World Cup. And that's what's so exciting, because for us, we know how special this city is, but to be able to play in these competitions and really take Columbus global, we feel like it's our responsibility and our mission, and we're excited to be able to do that through the global game of soccer. So CONCACAF Champions Cup will be a challenge because it puts fixtures in the middle of a normal match week, right? So now next week we'll have 3 games in 8 days, or 4 in 16 instead of just 2. And that increases the chance of injury. There's shortened time frames to prepare for matches, but it's an incredible opportunity, and it's why we play the game, is to be able to play in multiple competitions, compete for trophies. On top of CCC, we have Leagues Cup, we have Campeones Cup, and so it is going to be a fun year, one filled with formidable opponents, and we're excited about it, but it is a challenge at the same time. I think that the other challenge for us is how do we be consistent? And that's the challenge we pose to the players. Is we showed it at the end of last year and into the playoffs, performing at a high level, especially after winning a championship, is to continue to do that is incredibly difficult. It's how do you sustain high performance? I mean, I think every championship winning team is trying, in every sport across history, is trying to figure that out. Some have, to a degree, right? The Chiefs and Patriots and the Bulls back in the day, but it's incredibly hard. But it takes leadership, it takes patience and discipline. But one of the things we can control is who's on our roster, and one of the competitive edges we believe in Major League Soccer that can help you be consistent is to keep your roster consistent. Because if you can do that, then players improve each year. If you have the right people in place and the players have the right mindset, then they continue to improve. So 20 players returning, 4 new players, excited about Marino, Hinestroza, Derek Jones, Nico Hagen, Taha Humbrun from our academy. So a nice blend of new players coming in, to add to what is already, a very sound roster. Obviously, leadership with Darlington and Cucho and Diego and Aiden Morris, and I won't list them all because I always forget one. But we're going to need everybody. We have Will Sands coming back after an injury. He's like having a new player. Chiberko will have a full season to look forward to for him. So really excited about this group of players and what they can do and how do they continue to improve. And I think that's one of the mantras that Coach has talked about quite a bit is the challenge is how do we get better? And I think that's really exciting. The one thing that we do as a club is try to find alignment from the first team down to Crew 2 and through the academy. A lot of clubs are obviously trying to do that as well through sort of maybe what they would call a technical committee. We call it our one club philosophy. It's this integration from the style of play from the first team to Crew 2 to the academy, and very proud of what the academy and Crew 2 have done to mimic the values on the first team, because we're long term, the ability to sustain success really hinges on our young players and whether or not they can develop into first team impact players. How do we develop more Aiden Morrises? We have Sean Zawadzki's, Taha's right there stepping in, but can he become an impact player? And it requires a lot of people at the club to come together to discuss soccer topics, the curriculum, the principles of play. How do you develop the holistic individual? And we're lucky to have Mark Nichols leading the charge there on making sure that everyone is familiar with what we're trying to achieve. Obviously, we've Corey Ray at Crew 2 and Issa Tal, who's helping us in all areas of the club. But I'll pause there because I know you have questions, but we're excited about this year. On top of everything I already mentioned, we have the All-Star Game, which is a fantastic event where we get to showcase the city and the best talents in our league in Columbus. So we're excited to have that match, as well as the Aston Villa competition game, where we get to test ourselves, against one of the best teams in the world right now. So a lot to talk about, a lot to look forward to this year, and we're ready to get kicking on the road against Minnesota this weekend.
I noticed while you were listing all the trophies the guys will be competing for, you failed to mention the U.S. Open Cup. So I wanted to ask about the Crews. I know there's a lot of different things happening with that cup. I wanted to ask about the Crews' status playing in the U.S. Open Cup.
Yeah, we just learned. I can't discuss it today because I think it'll be announced either later today or early next week. But so I can't say what the status is for us yet. But it's an important competition because of the history it has, and not just in our country, but in other countries, the ability to sort of open it up to amateur teams and to all layers of the professional pyramid within a federation. So it's an exciting competition. But at the same time, there are clear challenges that the commissioner and the federation have outlined, and they're working on them. So I'm confident that the leadership at the league and the federation will come to a good resolution that, I don't know if everyone will be happy with, because that's probably the definition of compromise. But we know there are good leaders and good people at both organizations who are going to figure it out.
Something else I wanted to ask you about is how I know you guys are looking for a new Crew 2 coach. So I just want to ask you about the status where you guys are in that process, and if you have kind of an estimated timeline when you get that figured out.
Yeah, we shortly. We should be able to announce that in the coming days. So excited about, we've made a decision, and so just excited about announcing it, and for all the players on Crew 2 and for what it means for our club. So just hold tight for a few more days.
And you mentioned the amount of players you have coming back, and you brought new players. Is there any still profile you feel like throughout the season you might want to bring in that could even help advance the team, or just speak about where you feel like there's a little bit of holes that you guys feel like you still could fill?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't call them holes. It's more about creating variation in the way that we play the game and giving Wilfried and the coaches the tools to be dynamic and to adjust and adapt. And I think that's one of, obviously, coaches' strengths. So, and with each competition, frankly, the style is different. So if you're playing in MLS and you're playing against the Red Bulls, that's going to be different than playing against Tigres. Just not even obviously from a roster standpoint, but just style of play. And so we need to have variation in our style. So, so I think some of that will come from tactics. Some of it will come from players assuming new roles and developing new skills, and then some could come from roster additions. The window's open till sort of late April, so we have some time. And I think, one thing that we've noticed across the league is the ability to make adjustments in season is a sort of a signature characteristic of teams who've achieved a lot. So I think of Seattle picking up Nico Ladero in mid-year. I think of us in 2020 picking up Elo Room and Luis Diaz, who really helped push us toward the cup. And then last year, we picked up Malte right before the window closed. The first window closed, and then Rudy and Cheba and Julian last summer. So what I would say is we're learning more about ourselves and how we want to be very varied and diverse in our style, and then at that point we could decide to bring a new player in. But again, we look from within first, and then we'll go out externally if we have to.
Thank you.
You mentioned Taha, Sean, Aiden, all these players have gone through the player pathway of academy, crew 2, or et cetera, to get up to the first team. What sets you guys apart as being so successful with that player pathway from other clubs?
I think the people, the experts that we have that are developing, and then the passion that they put into it. So if it's Mark Nichols, technical director who spent years working on his craft and trying to figure out how to integrate sort of the principles from throughout an entire club, and then develop players. And so I think what sets us apart is the people and this vision that we're gonna try to develop players. I think the first part is just establishing that as a mission. Not every club is trying to do that, and that's okay. Some are going to spend big and go really aim at the top end of their roster, and you can compete in MLS by doing that. But for us, over the long term, we feel like it's more efficient, and it resonates with our community when we're doing it from within. So the people, the experts that we bring in, and then the way that we connect in the community. So someone like Dante Washington and his group with Robert Spain, and the way that they've created a crew network with 30 local clubs to strengthen those relationships, so that we have eyes, ears on all the best talent, but we're also helping educate the coaches locally. So I think it's mostly about the people and the way we go about doing it. That would probably be the secret sauce if you were to point to anything.
You mentioned the biggest challenge that the club faces is the number of competitions that they're going to be participating in. For you, are you making yourself available to as a support system for the coaches and players if necessary, just with how much that they're going to be dealing with, and it could add a lot of stress to them? Are you making yourself available to be an ear, or to if they need to vent frustration at all?
Yeah, I'm probably annoying. I don't know if I'm an ear, but I'm probably talking about it maybe too much. No, it is. We are a group, right? So I don't think it's something where the coaches, the players should feel alone. I think the entire club, like I said, understands that the challenge this year is probably one of them is schedule congestion. And so how are we facilitating a smoother transition from match to match, making sure that the hotel and the food and the travel arrangements are taken care of. So, Julio Velasquez does a fantastic job leading our team administration of the first team. And so, I'm trying to support him, and we're just trying to figure out where the priorities are now that is a challenge that maybe we didn't have last year. But it's a collective effort.
Thank you.
To steal a gambling metaphor, with your winnings from this past season, knowing where this club has gone in the 5 years that you've been at the helm, Tim, where are you doubling down this year? And where are you maybe pulling back and looking for a new game in terms of how the club operates, where you put your resources, and where you count on success in the end?
Nice question with the gambling. I like that. We're doubling down on youth.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think we just talked about the academy and our developmental system, because I think that'll pay dividends where we don't have to. We're not really gambling. We're in control of it, right? So I think that's the most important thing is what can you control? Can you create an environment that facilitates that development? So we're certainly doubling down there. Pulling back, I don't know. I don't know if we're pulling back anywhere. I think that's, nothing is coming to mind right away, and I think that speaks to our ambition as a club. Obviously, we're living in a world where there's limited resources, and so you do have to allocate resources. So in a salary cap perspective, if you're putting $1 into one player, then you're going to have to take it from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So we're constantly thinking about how we can be efficient with our resources, but nothing is really jumping out as where are we pulling back compared to last year. It's all about, I think, moving forward and just being smart with our decisions.
Who are you hearing from around the league when it comes to the success that the club has had, and how people kind of want to steal a page from the playbook?
Well, I think everyone has their own playbook, and they believe in it. So every club has a philosophy or purport to. What's fun about this league is that there's now 29 unique identities, and I'm not sure you could say that MLS 2005, where there was 10, 12, 14 teams, and for the most part they looked pretty similar. It was great that we had the league, no doubt, and obviously a fan, but in the last 5, maybe 10 years, each team has really started to play a certain way or try to. And so I don't know what pages they're trying to take from our book. Probably that, how to score goals, number of goals, I would say, is the way that we build out of the back is unique. And I've already seen a couple teams start to look to attract the opponent in the way that we do. So you're always going to have teams that imitate from a style of play, and I think that's what's so exciting about soccer. It just evolves because people are watching the global game and watching and picking up ideas from England, Germany, Spain, South America, and then even within your own league. So you see coaches borrowing from each other, and I think that there's nothing wrong with that, and it's obviously the finest form of flattery if that were to happen. But I don't know. I don't know what they would say. I mean, I do think that teams and clubs are looking at what we've done with lower.com field and with the training ground and the environment that we've created. Ownership has helped set to put the players in the best position to be successful and to realize their potential. There's not every market has that yet. Obviously, we're still certain places we're still playing in American football stadiums, which if you're selling out, great. But the intimate atmosphere we have at lower.com field and the fact that every seat in the house is world class, viewing is differentiating for us. And so I think other teams are visiting and touring our facilities, and I think that's good, right? We kind of stand on each other's shoulders as a league. We're only competing really within the white lines. Outside the white lines, we're a collective, and everyone's trying to get better to grow this league.
I just want to finish a story that I started yesterday. I had a chance to talk to Josh Williams. He paid you an extremely high compliment about how he was able to play for you in Toronto, and then you brought him back here in Columbus, and he was able to finish out his career in such a way as receiving his ring on Saturday, and it just meant so much to him. Mm-hmm. What does it mean for you to be in this league and to have witnessed that span of a career that a guy like Josh had, and the quality of person he is, and to have that kind of come to a close the way it did on Saturday?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's one of the reasons we do why we do what we do is to see good people have a career and then be celebrated for what they've contributed to a community. I always go back to growing up, when we didn't even have a league, really, and so there was no job. I mean, I did this job that I'm doing now didn't exist. Frankly, it didn't even really exist until sort of the technical leadership role of a general manager in MLS didn't really develop until like around 2010. And so we talk about it with the commissioners. We're so grateful to all the jobs that people have, that we all have in this industry. And I think the same goes for players like Josh, who I remember, I believe it was in 2010 when he was signed by Brian Bliss at the window, and I was working at the league office, and I had to rush to get his documents uploaded onto the system to get him onto the roster that weekend. And I didn't know to be honest, I didn't know who Josh Williams was at the league. I looked it up, from Ohio, and he'd been training with the crew. I think he had longer hair then. But to see from that moment and then be able to work with him and watch him grow as a person, and now he's a father, but also to lead the team, and when he's on the field the way he did, vocally with athleticism, but then off the field also just as well, where he found ways to contribute and be a leader last year, even though despite he wasn't able to really perform at his highest level given the industries, is it makes all the difference. It's why we do what we do, again, like I said, and I'm happy for him. I'm really happy for him.
Tim, you talk about the integration of the first team all the way down to the academy. I don't know if you got a chance to go back and listen to the broadcast for the UPSL game where the academy was out there in California. How they were talking about you see the first team in the academy. You as a general manager, how does that feel that the national attention is showing, that teams are watching what Columbus is doing?
I feel good about it. I think it's an affirmation of what this club is trying to do. I think it's important to have alignment from the top down, and I believe another data point was someone who was measured the style of play between Crew 2 and the first team, and I think it was at the top or near the top. And I mean, like I said, it's affirmation of what we're trying to do, and it's difficult. It's it's probably one of the hardest things to do, and it's not something that we've just achieved and then we can stop doing it. It requires constant work, weekly meetings, player individual development meetings, because not all the players are the same. So how do you can play a certain style of play and under certain principles, but you might have special talents at certain age groups. And so how do you allow that individual player to flourish, yet they're within a system, And so there's this constant back and forth between the system and the alignment, but also how do you develop the individual to reach their fullest potential? And sometimes they come in conflict. But the U19 team in the UPSL, and all the way down to even our pre-academy, we're trying to teach the game in the way that facilitates development. And hopefully when you watch the first team, players get excited, fans get excited and want to be a part of it.
With Messi coming into the league and Inter Miami sort of trying to build like a super team down there, do you feel that it's time that the roster rules get changed, to allow maybe a couple more players or more VPs?
Well, the current roster rules allowed Inter Miami to do what they're doing. So, I think people, if you would like to see teams acquire stars like they are in Miami with name recognition, I think we can currently do that. The question is whether or not you want more, or you want teams to have the same level of spend so that there's what we call equal opportunity. I think every individual probably has a little different preference on that. I think the NFL has done a fantastic job of creating an incredible experience, great within the confines of a very strict salary cap. For us, we're competing globally. And so if we're going to be a top 5 in the league in the world, we're competing for that talent with the other leagues. And so what level of spend, what are the roster rules that are required for us to achieve that result, probably requires some changes. It has to evolve because we're not there yet. And I know the league office is working on that. They've met, the board meets regularly, and they're focused on it. The owners and the league office is focused on trying to find the right mix of spend and the rules that can facilitate a great product quality. And I think, and they're really smart people who are thinking about all the possibilities, all the options, and I know Todd Durbin, who I worked with at the league office, is focused on that, and maybe we didn't make as many changes last year. They didn't make as many changes last year, but I think that's because they wanted to take a step back and look at it a little longer, a little deeper, get more information before they make those changes. But I'm excited to hear about it, to be a part of that process. What they'll do is they'll come to the CSOs and ask for feedback and thoughts, and that sort of iterative process hopefully will lead to a better result.
I want to make sure everybody gets out to training. We'll take one from Grant, one from Brianna. We'll close.
Can you talk about your excitement for CCC and, especially that second, what could be decisive leg being the first time CCC happens at lower.com field?
Yeah, so like I said, the excitement for Champions Cup is our ability to measure ourselves on at a global standard, at a different standard, right? There's the MLS, we're trying to beating up on each other. But once you step outside into a new competition where you're competing, where there's no salary caps in some ways, you get to see a different style of play. Our players get to test themselves on a new stage. I think it also there's more minutes that are available for some of our younger players in that competition. So I think there's a whole host of opportunities that Champions Cup provides on the field and for the roster, and then also for the fans. I think in the city, I don't know how many people will travel down to Houston, but I think down the road, if we're fortunate to advance, we could end up playing. I think Tigres is in our bracket, and Monterrey, both in fantastic city of Monterrey in Mexico, and those stadiums, when I've been down there, are just, the atmosphere is remarkable. It just feels different than lower.com field, and certainly, and just different. And that flavor, that international, the change that you get with international games is exciting. So excited about being able to compete. Again, showcasing Columbus in that competition is really important to us. And we'll see how far we can go.
Great. Close with Brianna.
I actually want to shift gears a little. You guys are hosting She Believes Cup too.
Mhm.
So I wanted to ask just about what that means for women's soccer and having that in Ohio, and the future of possibly having Ohio being a place where women's soccer can land, especially with such a growing league, growing sport.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we want to support women's soccer, and we want to support the women's and men's national teams whenever we can. And we believe we're sort of at the heart of American soccer, given everything that this stadium behind me, Historic Crew, has meant for qualifying, and now lower.com field, and getting and bringing the women in is just as important. There's half the population will connect with that team, and we're excited for all the young girls playing soccer, and frankly, when I watch the game's is exciting, and I love and enjoy it as well. So just to be able to go down to lower.com field and see something a little bit different and contribute to the growth of the women's game is so important. So it's exciting for our club. It's exciting for our fans. So we're looking forward to it, and we want to do more.